All right, Nick, it's time to talk about the Nittany Lions. Penn State spring ball has started. There's football in the atmosphere again, and things are looking very, very good thus far early on for Penn State. Everything is turning up roses. There's a lot of big time injury news, and I think the fans are going to really like what's going on down in Happy Valley.
Yeah, Mice. And speaking of turn up roses, obviously Penn State reigning Rose Bowl champions trying to go back again or potentially make a deeper run, potentially the college football playoff. And in order for Penn State to do that, they're going to need to rely on some new additions, whether they're new guys to the transfer portal, early enrollees in the recruiting process, or some young guys moving up the roster, getting a real chance to shine the spring practice. And that's why we want to hear from you, Penn State Nittany Lion fans, in the comment section below. Give us the one guy that you think has a really strong chance to break out this spring practice session to really build some momentum for the fall. One guy you think is going to get huge reps at spring practice, make a name for himself, and then become a big time player for Penn State come fall 2023. But all right, Miles, what you got? What's the latest out of Penn State?
All right, Nick, before we get into the football, Penn State fans also should be excited. Penn State qualified 9 wrestlers heading to the national championships this year. Looks really good. Head coach Cale Sanderson, greatest wrestler of all time, in my opinion. So I think that, I just wanted to acknowledge that. That's really cool for them. But the football team is looking really, really good, Nick. They're in a really strong spot. A lot of health injury news coming up this spring. Guys are looking good. First, let's start off in the quarterback room. Quarterback Drew Aller is no longer in a walking boot anymore. Coach Franklin actually kind of joked about that in his press conference, saying no one wants to ask about the boot and the scooter anymore. So Drew Aller is a full go for practice, and he is currently splitting reps against quarterback Bo Pribula. This is going to be a very interesting battle. I think potentially, no matter how it ends up going, these guys could split reps during the season. They could be in some interesting packages on the field. It'll be really interesting to see how that all plays out, Nick. But that's not the only good news. Obviously, last year, Penn State fans know the blue and white game was kind of like semi-canceled, modified, not the same, because the O-line was so banged up due to injuries. They weren't able to play a full game. This year, Coach Franklin says this game is going to be a full go, and that is because the O-line is healthy again this season. Olu Fashanu, I believe that's how you say his name. All these O-linemen, I'm going to butcher the names a little bit, but we'll get past that. He was a full go at practice this week, as well as Hunter Norzard and Landon Tangwall having slightly modified practices, but Coach Franklin said that they should be back to full go by the third practice of the spring. So that's all really, really good stuff, Nick. Slight battle at the right tackle position between Drew Shelton and Caden Wallace. We'll keep our eye on that going down the stretch. But a lot of really good injury updates and a lot of promise for Penn State. Nick, what do you think about the news the Lions have gotten?
So I think the most important thing here is getting health at the quarterback position, number one, because you need to see who's going to replace Sean Clifford, whether it's one guy or it's by committee. To me, that is the biggest question, and everyone in Penn State knows this entire offseason, whether it was in winter workouts, now in spring ball, summer workouts, fall camp, going into the season, and maybe even develop throughout the season, depending on whoever ends up being the starter, how they play. That is the most important question to answer, because obviously Clifford, really good career at Penn State, won a lot of football games, tough, physical guy, clear leader of this team, had a lot of talents. He doesn't project to be a high NFL guy, I think 6th, 7th round pick, but he had just enough tools, the right heart, excuse me, and of course had the ability to lead this offense to a lot of success. So replacing that is the big question for Penn State going forward. But another element to that, Miles, I'm glad you brought up the offensive line, is that when you're evaluating quarterbacks, you need to make sure that you're evaluating them against the guys who are going to actually protect for them come fall. Because it's one of those things, if you're trying to split reps at the first string quarterback position, like, all right, we'll see how one guy looks. If you've got flaky, inconsistent offensive linemen who are either nursing injuries or you got some backups playing a lot, it's going to be hard to evaluate which quarterback's better. If one quarterback gets to play with a good, healthy left tackle, and the other one gets to play with a garbage left tackle. No offense to any second, third string offensive lineman. I was a third string offensive lineman most of my career in college. I know a thing or two about garbage left tackles. It's not fair for quarterbacks to play behind them. But I digress. Back to my main point. It's going to be hard to evaluate, which one is better. And that's why it's really important that they're actually healthy going into spring ball this season, because that way you get a fair shake to see, okay, which quarterback is our guy? Which guy is standing out the most? What's the guy who can hang in the pocket, run the offense, make the throws, tuck and run if need be? That to me is the most critical thing. So the fact that they're getting healthier at the quarterback position so they get a fair evaluation at who their guy's going to be, as well as getting healthier at the offensive line so that way you actually have quality linemen in front of these quarterbacks to give the coaches a chance to evaluate these guys. I think both those things aligning at the right time is huge for the Penn State going forward.